What if the biggest move the Celtics make is the one nobody sees coming right now? Just months ago, the league quietly labeled Boston as a transition team, a roster supposedly stripped of certainty and leaning too heavily on youth. That narrative collapsed faster than anyone expected. Second place in the East is not an accident. It is leverage. And around the league, executives are starting to whisper about something dangerous. Boston is no longer surviving the season, it is positioning to strike. League insiders are signaling that Brad Stevens is approaching the deadline as a buyer, not out of desperation, but out of calculation. This matters. Buying at the right moment reshapes playoff paths. The tension is obvious. How does Boston add without detonating its financial future? That question alone tells rivals something uncomfortable. The Celtics have optionality. Not many contenders do. The front-court discussion is louder than ever. Yet the real intrigue is not about who is struggling. It is about timing. Adding size now changes matchups later. One acquisition can force opposing coaches to rewrite entire game plans in April. That is why the Ivica Zubac conversation refuses to die. His value is not flashy points. It is control. Control of rebounds. Control of pace. Control of second chances. Those things break playoff series quietly. Here is the spicy angle nobody wants to say out loud. Boston does not need to overpay. Waiting increases pressure on sellers. A patient Celtics front office can turn cap math into a weapon, while others panic. Then there is Anthony Simons, the chess piece everyone keeps staring at. Trading him could unlock immediate help. Keeping him could unlock flexibility later. The bold view, re-signing him on a smart number might be the more dangerous move. Long-term, a movable contract is currency, not a burden. This deadline is not about fixing holes. It is about amplifying strengths and setting traps for the postseason. The Celtics are calm, calculated, and quietly confident. The question now is simple. When the move finally hits, will the league realize too late that Boston was never standing still? What does it really mean when an opposing coach stops the noise and tells the truth in public? The Celtics lost by 1 point in Detroit. A cruel ending decided by a missed shot that could have flipped the night. But the real moment happened before the ball even went up. It happened with words, and those words carried more weight than the final score. J.B. Bickerstaff did not sound like a coach praising an all-star out of courtesy. He sounded like someone admitting a problem his team had no clean answer for. Jaylen Brown, in his eyes, is not just scoring. He is absorbing defensive attention, manipulating coverages, and still bending games toward winning. That is a rare combination, and rivals feel it. This season has quietly forced the league to rethink Brown's ceiling. His usage is massive, yet his efficiency refuses to collapse. Defenses load up early, send help late, and switch bodies constantly. It does not matter. Brown keeps finding angles, spots, and timing that break schemes rather than shots. That is not volume scoring. That is control. Here is the uncomfortable take for the rest of the NBA. Brown is learning how to dominate without chaos. He is choosing when to attack and when to empower others, which is usually the last step before a player enters a different tier entirely. Coaches notice that before fans do. His all-star starter nod is not a reward for loyalty or narrative. It is an admission that the league can no longer pretend this is just a hot stretch. Brown himself said he always believed he belonged here. The difference now is that opponents are saying it out loud. The loss will fade. The message will not. When rival coaches openly acknowledge your impact on winning, something has shifted. The scary part for the East is simple. Jaylen Brown is still expanding this version of his game. And if this is the foundation, the next phase might be the one nobody is ready to defend. What if the most dangerous version of the Celtics has not even stepped on the floor yet? What if the most dangerous version of the Celtics has not even stepped on the floor yet? For months, Jayson Tatum's injury hovered over Boston like an unanswered question, one that rivals hoped would define the season. Instead, it became background noise. Quietly, almost stubbornly, the Celtics refused to let absence turn into identity. Now, the whispers around the league are changing tone, because the updates on Tatum's return are no longer cautious. They are eye-opening. Seeing Tatum move freely in a public workout sent a message far beyond a high school gym in Michigan. drives with explosion, spins with balance, dunks without hesitation. That matters more than box scores or optimistic timelines. It suggests confidence in the leg, trust in the body, and belief in the process. Those are the final barriers after an injury like this. Derek White calling the rehab amazing is not casual praise. Teammates know when a star is pushing and when he is protecting himself. This looked like progress, not performance. And that distinction fuels optimism inside the building. Here is the part that should unsettle the rest of the East. Boston is already second in the conference without Tatum. Not surviving, competing, growing. Roles have expanded. Usage has redistributed. Jaylen Brown has carried weight few players in the league could handle. When Tatum returns, he is not asked to save a season. He is asked to elevate one. That changes everything. There is no rush, no panic, no pressure to be Superman in March. The Celtics can layer him back in, test lineups, and weaponize depth while others scramble for answers. This is not about when Tatum comes back. It is about what Boston looks like when he does. If this team has learned how to win without him, imagine what happens when he walks back into a structure that already believes it belongs at the top. The scariest part is simple. The Celtics still have another gear waiting to be unlocked. What if the Celtics are not chasing a center, but waiting for the market to blink first? With the deadline closing in, league chatter is getting louder, yet Boston remains calm. That alone should raise eyebrows. When insiders float Ivica Zubac as an ideal target, it is not about highlights or name value. It is about leverage. Zubac represents control, structure, and playoff reliability, the kind of piece that shifts series without demanding the spotlight. The real intrigue is not whether Zubac fits. He does. The intrigue is why Boston can afford to hesitate. His contract is clean. His impact is measurable. Defensive rebounds end possessions. Screens create advantages before the defense even reacts. This is silent dominance, the type contenders crave in May. That is why executives around the league keep circling his name when Boston comes up in conversations. But here is the uncomfortable truth for sellers. The Celtics are already winning without forcing a move. Second in the East is not an illusion. It is proof of flexibility. While other teams negotiate from fear, Boston negotiates from patience. That changes everything. The Clippers know Zubac's value has risen. Boston knows desperation inflates prices. This is a staring contest, and history suggests Brad Stevens does not flinch. Overpaying now would solve a short-term need while creating a long-term problem. That is not how this front office operates. Another layer makes this even more fascinating. The Celtics are evaluating how their current group handles pressure minutes. That data is priceless. It informs not just this deadline, but future ones. Adding the right big at the right cost could be the final multiplier, not a patch. If Zubac becomes available at the right number, Boston is ready. If not, patience becomes the weapon. Either way, the Celtics are not reacting. They are dictating pace. And when a contender controls time, the rest of the league usually realizes too late what is coming.